Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Mason. You're listening to the Bearded Tog podcast, where our job is to help take that dream to a sustainable business. Thank you so much for listening. Today is an awesome day. That's because we have the amazing Jeff Sheldon coming on. He started a company called Ugmonk, and he started that company, and it's not just a product company. He does shirts, T-shirts. I think I have 12 or 13 Ugmonk shirts. I've bought the bag. I have a mouse pad. But anyway, he's just an absolutely incredible businessman. He's got a heart similar to myself, where he chooses to give back whenever he can. So each year he'll do a drive where a portion of the profits of Ugmonk go to help feed kids in Honduras and other South and Central American countries, which is really cool. He runs his business outside of Downingtown, Pennsylvania, which is an amazing place. I went to college right outside of there. And the guy's business is just booming. Last year alone, he released 26 new products. And so I think that's super cool. And I've just known this guy, known of his work since 2008. And I've been addicted ever since. And I wanted to have him on the show to kind of share a little bit of insight for people who do products. How do you handle shipping? What would happen if 1,000 people ordered one of your products? Are you ready for that? Are you prepared? So I wanted to talk to somebody who is a little bit further along in the product game and just talk about how he got started, what did it look like back in the day, and what it looks like now and what are his dreams. So anyway, here's Jeff Sheldon. Thanks so much. Hey, Jeff, how's it going, man?
Hey, Adam, doing well.
That's awesome, man. Dude, how's your year going so far?
Well, it's been a little rough start, mostly on the personal front. Business is going well, but the lack of sleep with having an 8-month-old that doesn't want to sleep is kind of killing me.
Yeah, so. I read you had a year in review post on Ugmonk, at least on the Facebook, and it said something like it's kind of running through all your amazing numbers, products released and website hits and all this stuff. But then it was like number of hours of sleep lost because of a new baby or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been quite the ride. I'll put it that way. Right now, it's just basically survival mode. Taking shifts with him at night, and he doesn't want to sleep more than an hour or two at a time. So, yeah, we're trying to figure all that out. And once we get that settled down, everyone keeps telling us it gets better from here. So we'll hold them to that.
All right, dude, that's crazy, man. Whenever someday when I have children, I'll be texting you and being like, hey, so how did you guys deal with this? Especially as like at home, your wife works with you as well, right?
Yeah, she helps out part-time too. So yeah, we're home. I work from home. She's home. I get to see my son all the time, which is great, but it also means I get to hear him cry all the time. So the headphones go on a lot more now than they used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, so for people who don't know who you are, and I told them in the pre-show that I have been following you since 2008. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, like how long have you been doing what you do, and kind of what are your main goals right now at Ugmonk?
Yeah, well, that's crazy. You've been following me basically for the entirety of Ugmonk, so it's pretty cool that you've seen the whole evolution from the original scrappy kind of couple T-shirts here and there to the full-blown thing that it is today. But I am a designer by trade and an entrepreneur by accident. I love design and started Ugmonk out of that passion just to design shirts that I wanted, and started with just T-shirts, designing those, put up a website, selling those online to whoever else liked that same style, and then began to build out the brand over the years, and eventually quit my full-time job to do Ugmonk full-time, and have taken the brand beyond just T-shirts, where now I design and produce leather goods, bags, all sorts of things, but all tied around that same minimalist design aesthetic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just a little background for probably both of us and then for the listeners. So I used to work at an Apple store back in 2008, and it was like one of the most transformative times of my life, because at that time all the staff were just incredibly creative and entrepreneurially minded, and it was really in an inspirational place. And then you also worked for the company that made the products that you use in order to create that stuff. And this guy named Brian Hoff, who I'm still friends with today, was like, hey, man, you want some cool T-shirts? Like, I'm pretty sure he has some in 2XL. And I was like, sure, man. Like, I need some cool T-shirts in a big man size. And I found your stuff, and I was like, done. I love this. And that is so funny. I didn't know that was exactly when it started, but kind of, that time Yeah, I've been watching you for a long time, Jeff. That sounds really creepy.
That's amazing though. Yeah. I mean, to most people, haven't seen the full evolution or like the fact that I'm still around 8 years later. But that's cool that, yeah, Brian turned you on to them. And yeah, I still stay in touch with Brian a little bit now. So
That's awesome. That's a fun point that you just made too. I've realized even in my own business is like, and we'll get to kind of more practical stuff in a bit, but this will be fun to kind of work out is like, at least with your friend groups and stuff like that, or maybe with me, I feel like people only view your business as like an iceberg, like they only see the top 10 or 20%, and they kind of just see it like, oh yeah, you're doing this stuff. And like slowly over time, I think like they're kind of late to the party. They'll say, oh yeah, you're doing that now. Or, oh, that's really cool. Like I didn't, business must be good. Whereas you and I know, business is better than it was, but it's like, no, in order for me to look like I'm doing well now, business had to be good like 3 years ago.
yeah, exactly. It is funny that you bring that up because I get that all the time. It's like even sometimes like products that I have, the people will be like, oh, I didn't realize you made bags. I'm like, I've been posting about them for the last 3 years, and people don't see every aspect or every part of the business because when you're the designer or the owner, you get to see every little bit of it. And sometimes I feel like people are probably tired of like me talking about a certain aspect, but once people like realize how much there is beyond just creating a few shirts or taking a few photos, they're kind of like blown away with the amount of preparation and years of work that went in to get to that point.
Yeah, definitely. And two, I think, part of that might be, social media saturation. They just see a lot of stuff. And then Sean West, he always says that, like the power of 7, like people need to hear something 7 times. And to you and I, we'd probably be like, man, we have to post about this new T-shirt 7 times. Like that feels awkward and inauthentic. But at the same time, like, another guy like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's like, don't be romantic about how you make your money. And it's just like, hey, it's okay to post about this blog or this photo or this T-shirt because like people do know that's what you do. But it can definitely feel kind of awkward, like having to post that much to kind of keep everything at everybody's eye level, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think I err on the side of like not posting. I don't want to duplicate too many things. Like, 'cause I don't want to say this again. I've already said it twice. But then if you say it a third time, then there's like 100 more people that are like, whoa, this is amazing. Or I love this article. Or I'll even repost an article that I wrote like 6 months ago. And people are just like, oh, this is so great. And they don't even care or didn't even know that I published it. And so it's a weird balance between how much do you kind of self-promote yourself and your work versus like let people just find it. And especially now with like you said, social media and the noise and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to figure out what feels right without feeling obnoxious.
Yeah. Do you have kind of like maybe a personal or like a business guideline for yourself? Where do you draw that line between annoying and personal?
I don't know that I have a line. I mean, it would be nice if I had some sort of grid that I could be like, all right, have posted 3 times, will not post, for another 2 weeks or something. I do it mostly by feel, which is a really bad way to gauge things because it's like, I feel like I should post a photo or I feel like I should put a tweet, retweet this article or something like that. But I don't schedule anything. So I don't like every tweet that I've ever hit publish or every Instagram photo. It's just me like literally pressing the button to publish it. Which is kind of weird because it's like there's times where I don't feel like doing anything and there's nothing, no new tweets for a while. But I don't want it to feel robotic in the sense that people are like, why does this keep coming up? Like, this is the same thing. This isn't Jeff talking. This is definitely like pre-scheduled type of thing. So I think you can merge the two. There's definitely scheduling that I probably should be doing to help alleviate some of that, like knowing where that line is. But on the other hand, I kind of just like it the way I kind of like to just live it organically. And hey, I haven't talked about our hats for a while. I'm going to do a post about our hats, how they're made, maybe do a discount on them, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, there's kind of a line in business where we're like, I want to remain authentic, or at least especially for brands that are kind of run smaller by one person or 2 people. But at the same time, it's like, do you put out a little bit more and hopes that you'll reach more. And, but then like, yeah, that line between keep staying authentic. And because I like that idea that you're just like, hey, I go by feel, and like, I saw somebody in one of the hats and I took a picture of their hat, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people have definitely different ebbs and flows of how they feel in their business, or like the size of a business. A business with 500 people is probably not going to just do things by feel. But the advantage of like you and I being the owners of what we do, we get to decide and change those things as much as we want.
Definitely. So take me back to kind of the beginning days of Ugmonk, and I won't give anything away. I know a little bit about it, mostly because I watched a few other interviews. But tell me, what it was like. How did you get into starting Ugmonk? And then maybe share, like, I would love kind of a nitty gritty practical story of like, yeah, I had 100 shirts in my trunk and I'd have to sell each one or ship each one or go to FedEx or, whatever that kind of looked like for you in the beginning stages.
Yeah, definitely. So it was actually kind of close to that, not selling them out of my trunk. But when I started, I was entry-level designer, just graduated college, and was working at a really cool agency up in Vermont. We were doing some cool action sports marketing type work, print production, design, all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't necessarily doing a ton of the creative work. So being fresh out of school where you get to do, work on every project and have that autonomy, I was kind of feeling like not creatively fulfilled. So that's when I started Ugmonk, just to keep my hands busy. I'm not the type of person that can just sit down and watch like 5 hours of TV every night. I'm too ADD or creative ADD to do that. So I started Ugmonk just really to fill that void. And like I said before, I was designing shirts that I wanted to wear. Had never screen printed a shirt. My shirts had been printed by some of the online T-shirt competitions. Designed by Humans was the one that actually won, and they printed my shirt, and I got a cash prize for winning that. But I had never actually produced my own physical products before this, so I had no idea what I was doing. And to start, I was like, I'm going to order, or I had 4 designs, and I was going to start with 50 of each shirt, and then hope that I could sell all of those and go from there. But there was no real master plan or vision beyond that. Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say, so yeah, I ordered the shirts, and I mean, initially I ran into my very first problem where I worked with a screen printer that was recommended to me, but I'd never got samples. And 1 out of the 4 shirts ended up being so poorly printed that I actually never sold them because the printing was so bad. So I started off on a great note there, but it's been a roller coaster. There's always ups and downs, but that was the initial start.
Okay, that was fun to listen to. What do you, what did that look like? Kind of, did you have an online presence there and people were like emailing you like, hey, I want to buy this shirt? Did you have some kind of like, I feel like in 2008, like WooCommerce and Shopify were probably not as big as they are now,
Yeah, it was totally different. I actually was just tweeting about that the other day, like how online forums have like disappeared, or they're still there, but nobody's really as active as they used to be. But there was different design forums and T-shirt forums that I was part of, and I didn't have an email list. I wasn't on Twitter. I don't even know if Twitter was barely even launched, I think, at that point. There wasn't Facebook brand pages. Instagram wasn't thought of. Like, the internet was so different that the only way I got my start was basically emailing blogs that I thought were cool, and they posted cool work that they might like what I'm doing, and told them a little bit about, like, here's Ugmonk, here's the designs. If you think your readers would like this, maybe you could do a post about it. And I wasn't even sending discount codes or samples. I was just literally like trying to find people that resonated with those early designs. And I eventually got a few different blog posts on a couple small blogs, which led to bigger ones. And then it grew from there. But I mean, even today, blog referral traffic is not anything like what it was back in 2008.
Interesting. That's awesome. What is that? I guess we could say, I'm trying to think of what the best thing to talk about is in your business so far, is there been one kind of like tipping point for you, or have there been multiple ones where you like each little check you can kind of feel like, okay, we're moving, we're getting bigger now, we're selling newer products? What have been those tipping points for you?
Yeah, I don't know that there was necessarily one that I could go back to and say like, here's where we made it, or here's our Oprah moment where we got national press coverage and all of a sudden everyone wanted to buy shirts from us. It's much more, when I think most businesses actually happen this way. We like to hear about the crazy success stories, but it was more just little blips of, press coverage or customers coming back, customers telling other people about it, slowly building, my email list and social media. And really the product was what drew people back. It wasn't the marketing or anything else. It was people being like, hey, I love these 3 shirts. Are you going to design more? And that began to build and build. And the one shirt that was, I guess, our biggest success early on was the big And Then I Woke Up shirt, which is the big ampersand on the heather gray shirt, and has kind of become one of our classics. That got picked up on the most blogs. Again, this was probably 2009, I think. The most blogs and most coverage that we had gotten for any up until that point. And that really set us on a trajectory of like, all right, I think we have something here. We were not selling like thousands of shirts, even hundreds of shirts probably, but we were at least like gaining some good momentum and traction, and people were like, oh man, I really love this stuff and I can't buy it anywhere else. So that's kind of like the main mini tipping point.
Definitely. I remember that shirt. So that's really awesome. And I want to say that one, I'm just guessing. I'm pretty sure I have. Did you ever come out with it in different colors other than the heather gray?
Yep. Yeah. So we came out with a bunch of other colors. We've discontinued some of them, but we still have a couple on our site.
Yeah. So I definitely think I have not the original one, unfortunately, but I have one of I forget what color it is now. I think it's blue or purple or something like that. But yeah. So at that time, were you full-time at that moment, or kind of what point in the Ugmonk transition were you full-time or leaving like a full-time gig?
Yeah, this was still full-time with Ugmonk. I was still working at the agency, and basically what I was doing was taking every dollar that I made from Ugmonk and putting it right back into the business, investing in more inventory, just starting to build out a nicer website and invest my time that way. But I wasn't necessarily counting on the income to live off of, which was a huge thing. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily see this. They have an idea, they start, and then a month later they quit their job and try and take that full time. So I definitely I was building up a safety net, or basically a cushion, so that I could fall back on if I had to put all the shirts, liquidate all the shirts, I could. But that allowed me to still do it on the nights and weekends. And actually, when you said taking shirts to the post office or selling out of our trunk, that's what my wife and I were doing. We were literally like folding shirts on the living room couch and packaging them and writing out all the customs forms for international orders by hand. Like, we didn't have any systems or there was no processes for that, because it was a few here, a few there, and then it was like 50 here, 50 there, and 100. And we eventually had shirts like piled high in every room except for like the kitchen and the bathroom. There's like boxes of shirts pretty much everywhere you looked in our apartment. So it was crazy to think that's how it all started, but that's how we did it.
Dude, that's amazing. What, how did you even do kind of like handling so many international orders? I feel like if I was starting out, I'd probably, it worked out for you. I would my nature would be to lean back and kind of reserve and be like, okay, I'm not going to do international. Did you do that by accident? And you were like, okay, we got an order from Japan, we got to ship this, or, what were your kind of intentions?
It was actually exactly that way. I didn't even know what I set the shipping rate for international. It was something ridiculously low. And one of the first orders that came in after being featured, like right after we launched, I think it was from Australia. I wonder if I could even go back and look, but it was from somewhere overseas. And I was like, I'm not even sure what to do with this. Like, it cost me twice as much to ship than I even charged them, and didn't know anything about customs. I'd never sent anything international. And the funny thing is, like, how much of I don't have an exact percentage, but there's a large percentage of our business that is based not in the US, or a lot of our customers are based not in the US, still to this day.
That's awesome. Is that product T-shirts still for international?
Yeah, I think it's everything. The T-shirts are definitely still our bread and butter, but we send pretty much all of our products. We've sent all over the world, and it's really interesting and cool that, like, I don't depend on just a local market or local business. As our country's economy goes up and down, and nobody knows what happened. Like, all these other countries, they might be having better or worse times too. So it's kind of cool that it's distributed that way around the world to all different people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, the cool thing about a lot of the products that you create, and this sounds weird about, shirts or mouse pads and stuff like that, but like the design elicits an emotional response. And so, like a certain shirt, like I know certain Ugmonk shirts I wear, like my favorite one is love what you do what you love.
Yep.
Yeah, or do what you love what you do.
Do what you love what you do. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's my favorite one. It's my favorite colors, which is black and gray. And like when I wear that, I'm just excited for the day, or I'm excited for what's going on. And I think too, at least for my experience in traveling, this is kind of getting way in the weeds, but if somebody sees your shirts and the economy is supporting it, like I don't know, I feel like your shirts would be easy to buy in a sense. They're like, oh yeah, this like makes me feel something, like this is cool. Or like the mountains shirt is my second favorite, and I feel like they would be drawn to that, and it feels fancy to like have it not be in their own country. Like I always love getting things that aren't made in the US.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, that's the idea is, like not every single shirt that I create has some deep meaning behind why the shapes look the way they do, or even the phrases. I mean, they allow the person wearing them to interpret or carry their own story with that. And like people tell me all the time, like, man, whenever I wear my Ugmonk shirts, I always end up talking to, some stranger asks me where I got it and wants to know what it means. And like, literally just like starts conversations, and people are allowed to, people have the freedom to kind of say, this is what do what you love means to me as a creative or as a teacher or whatever. And the openness of that, where it's not like Ugmonk is only for designers. We sell to a lot of the creative industry, but it's really cool how it's kind of transcended above that and beyond those, like beyond any single demographic. It appeals to a very specific type of person, but a wide demographic range.
Definitely. So this is kind of interesting for you. When I look at you, and it's probably because I've known kind of the Ugmonk story, and I've gotten to see kind of a big portion of it since 2008, is, I view you as an entrepreneur and a business owner, and not that you can't be those things without this, but how involved do you feel, or do you kind of like recognize that you are, majorly in the fashion industry in one way or the other, right?
Yeah, technically, I mean, you could call Ugmonk a fashion brand, although I never really call it that because I don't follow any of those rules. I do sell things that you wear, but I also sell other accessories and prints and things like that. But one of the things I kind of did on purpose, or maybe on accident because I didn't know anything about the fashion world, was I didn't follow the rules for collections, winter collection, spring collection, rotating products in every time, every week is a new product. I wanted to create products that would be still wearable years later, which I still sell some of the original shirts. And if I was a fashion brand, almost no fashion brand would be selling something that they made 8 years ago. So I call it a lifestyle brand focused on design more than a fashion brand, because I'm not necessarily producing things that on a runway or something like that. And I'm not selling wholesale. Most of my business is not selling wholesale, trying to get into boutiques. It's selling directly to fans and customers that like what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having that kind of direct approach. It's not your distance between you and your customer is not as far as, like a large fashion brand, which I think is really valuable, right?
Yeah, and you see a lot more brands doing this now, moving this direction. I think there's a lot more. The barriers are much lower, so brands that are a newer brand can still grow and be a big fashion brand, but can talk to their consumers. Unlike 20 years ago, where nobody really knew who was wearing their products unless they did like a focus group or something. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes and how bigger brands adapt to connecting directly to their customers. As you see, like shopping malls are all closing and big retail box stores are closing, but it's all turning into like real specialty experience based, kind of like the Apple Store. I mean, like there's a reason why that exists and will still exist, because people have that direct connection to Apple, not going through a third party.
Yeah, definitely. The big thing for the Apple Store, and kind of like what you said, and I think this plays into what you were thinking, is the Apple Store is not where I personally would purchase an Apple product. I don't think other than maybe a pair of headphones, I've never purchased anything from an Apple Store. But you're totally right. Like the experience, getting to touch and feel and see how something would fit into your lifestyle, ironically to use that word again, that's the perfect place for it. And at least at the time of this recording, AirPods just came out and I went and tried them out. They're very cool.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I think that's like a very important premise in kind of your position now. And so that was my next question, is kind of how important is your relationship to your customers, and what are some facets of that Ugmonk experience that you try and champion, if you will?
Yeah, that connection, it's really everything. Like I tell people, my email list, which is made up of, relationships directly to my customers, or people that haven't even bought yet, but that just want to hear about the design process and about my thoughts. That is my most valuable asset beyond anything else. There's no way I could run a store and have, 30,000 people walk in on a single day and get to talk to all of them. But on email, I can do that. And I'm able to kind of have those one-to-one relationships with people. It's maybe not as effective as if I could just, hang out and talk to each person, but through email, I'm able to communicate to them and build that trust. Even, you've been on my email list, so I share things about other brands that I like, not even Ugmonk stuff, and things that interest me. And building that relationship is, I think, what's really unique about the way that I've designed my business, as opposed to a traditional fashion label, or even, other brands that are doing similar type of things. I think that's what I'm betting on being the longevity of Ugmonk, is those relationships.
Yeah. For people maybe starting out, maybe they want to do a T-shirt, or they want to just start selling products or the like. Do you wish, or would you tell them that, they should start with an email list as they're developing those products and kind of start to create those relationships? And even if it's 5 to 10 to 20, maybe it could be beneficial for them in the long run.
Yeah, the first thing, beyond any social media, Instagram is great. Twitter, is noisy, but still fun and a great way to connect with people. But like, email is the single way that we can still reach people that want to hear. And Seth Godin's whole premise back in the day was permission marketing. As soon as someone gives their permission that they want to hear from you, they're much more apt to listen when you're sending them something than just hitting them over the head with an ad that they never asked for. And an email list for anyone that's starting a business, you should get that up and running as soon as you can. And then treat it like you're talking to people. Like, that's the other part, is people assume that a larger list means that they have to talk more corporate or more impersonal and press releasey. I've gone the opposite. I'm like, I'm going to keep talking, as my voice. I'm going to type like I talk, and basically keep that personal connection alive that has been ever since day one.
That's awesome. What are you kind of thinking whenever you go to craft an email to your customers, to keep that like one-to-one connection? Because I find for even myself, I don't have a list yet, and I'm kind of hoping to do that in 2017. And, on all your social media, you might have, even if you had 100 followers, I know we both have more than that, but it's like, we would talk differently to them, but the email is a singular like transaction. So how do you kind of, guide and craft what you think you're going to say to them? And how do you keep it personal?
I think I just try and I don't know that I have a great like method for it other than trying to think about as me, if I was a customer, if I was a recipient, like what would I want to read and how do I want to read it? So like the other newsletters that I subscribe to that I enjoy and respond to the best are usually written in that, casual, directly to me type of tone where I feel like I've gotten to know people through email. And I respond to that because we're all humans. I wrote a post that, I can't blank in the title, but it was like, wait, there's a human on the other end, and kind of just demystifying the fact that like we're all talking to each other, whether it's through social media or email or any medium. So we need to keep the humanness in that. Like there's something about us when we start touching the keyboard and typing that we like lose some of that human nature, and we try to maybe craft things too carefully, too perfect, or too salesy in marketing, that gets lost. But I try to like really push against that and write like the way I'd want to hear it as a user.
Definitely. That's awesome. What how do you what are some of the things that you now as an entrepreneur who's doing lots of products and you have people working for you, or at least a wife helping out, is, what are a few things that you now, I know this past year you wanted to like chief your focus, especially with a new child. What are some things that you are choosing to focus on, and some things that you now are kind of not spending as much time on now that your time is, much more prioritized?
So the main thing is this past year, I rebranded, basically updating my logo, redesigned our website from scratch. We coined it Ugmonk 2.0. Wanted to focus on a few things. One was just getting back to like what we're good at and who Ugmonk is, injecting more of that personal touch and feel in everything. So the emails and all the stuff that we put out. And then really just getting to like share everything that I'm learning along the way as well. And I've done that over the years, like behind the scenes posts and some videos, but I figured why not just pull the curtain completely back, show people how it's done, where I'm making things, how I make them, what tools I use, and let people in. And it's been really cool to see the response, because people, they really, really appreciate, like, if they're in maybe my scenario in 2008, when I was getting started, I would have loved to have somebody share, like, here's 30 tools that I use to start my business or to run my business. So that's what I'm doing now, is just sharing all that stuff, along with, trying to create new products and design new things, which is always part of what we do, is design and sell new products.
Has the email list and stuff like that, has that helped in a practical way, financially, and like actually sell more products? The email is the best converting of any avenue that I have to reach customers. So if you were to look at like, how much money came from referrals from Twitter, from Facebook, or from anywhere else, email blows those out of the water, because again, it's a very one-to-one connection. Even if, everyone checks their email, even if you're clicking delete or archive, everyone is at least seeing it. Whereas social media, people, 1 in 100 people might see a tweet or something like that. So email is what I put the most time into. And I try to be really careful about how, the frequency of emails, and make sure there's quality and something interesting in each one. So that I'm not just hitting people with, here's another sale and another sale and another sale, like some larger companies do. But email is really, really valuable in growing the business. Yeah. So I feel like you and I say the same things after each one talks. So I'll say, yeah, definitely. And you say, yeah, and you just notice these things when you're kind of going off the cuff here. And so like I have an outline of things to ask and talk about, but I like kind of getting into the nitty gritty and just more of like, I think people like hearing, what Jeff Sheldon thinks about email marketing, So you talked about tools. What are some of your favorite tools right now for running your own business?
Tools. The best thing to do would just be go to my site and look up, Google like 30 tools Ugmonk, and you'll probably come to the blog post. But the best tools for running a business right now, if you're selling something online or trying to sell something online, I highly recommend Shopify, which is what our site is built on, a mixture of Shopify and WordPress. But Shopify allows us to not have to worry about like thinking about the e-commerce end of things. They're continually improving their platform, and it's all hosted, and it's really well done. So that's a crucial part of running my business. For actually, like, one of my favorite tools recently is Dropbox Paper, which I guess it's still in beta, or maybe you have to sign up for it or something like that. But I used to use Google Docs for pretty much every time I was typing something, which means just like notes and brainstorms and collaborations and everything. But Dropbox Paper is basically like perfect for that, making lists, making like to-do lists, collaborating with people, watching. You can both live type at the same time, but it looks like 100 times cleaner and more minimal. So I've been using Paper every day for the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 months. And that's probably the newest thing that I'm addicted to.
That's awesome. I'll have to check out Paper because I feel like I'm a big Evernote guy right now, and there's still things that I do in Google Docs. You know, if you're sharing and doing collaborating with people, or like Sarah and I are planning a wedding right now, so we have like a wedding spreadsheet, and it's insane. Yeah, tell me a little bit more. So I know Shopify, I think, does all your ordering and shipping and fulfillment, right?
No, so Shopify is just the e-commerce, like the order transaction side of things. We keep all of our inventory numbers and everything in there, but on the shipping front, we use a program called ShipStation, and that pulls all the data from Shopify, pulls all the order information and customer information, and then allows us to print shipping labels with the weights already entered and the address. Everything's pretty much complete, and we can print those labels, and all we have to do is drop them off at the post office. So those Shopify doesn't handle the order side or the shipping side as much, but ShipStation does a great job at being able to do that and batch process things.
About what time in Ugmonk's journey did you like recognize a need for those two tools?
Well, we were doing shipping through PayPal for a long time, which was very, very tedious and would not recommend it. I mean, I think they've probably improved by now. I haven't looked at the actual shipping process, but we used to print like each label through PayPal, then it would like deduct out of the order, and individually had to click each one. So I don't know how long we've been using ShipStation, but when I found it, it was one of those life-saving moments. Like, why have I not seen this before? And why do I don't have to fill out any more customs forms by hand. I can actually it pulls in the customs information and automatically does that. Shopify, we switched over to, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, from another platform called Big Cartel, which is another great e-commerce platform. They're great for smaller end. Like if you have just a couple products and you want to sell, Big Cartel is great, but it's much more limited in the fact that it doesn't tie into as many other applications and third-party things. So we've been using ShipStation and Shopify combination for quite a long time.
I was going to say, what are your goals for 2017?
I don't know that I don't
business
have
or personal.
Yeah. Personal would be that I could figure out how to get my son to sleep through the night, which is not really up to me, but just getting life kind of back in order. It's been crazy, if I'm just being honest. And then business-wise, I have a lot of stuff that I've been working on for a while. A product that I'm hopefully launching on Kickstarter in a couple months. It is a desk-related product that I'll be sharing more of to my email list. And been working on it for so long that I'm just really excited to get it out and hopefully prove the concept and get it into people's hands. Putting a lot of effort and time and thinking behind this. So it could be either our biggest product yet or our biggest flop.
Oh, man. But, Ugmonk would still be around even if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, and totally. I mean, I'm going to be designing more T-shirts, new T-shirts. Every survey that I've ever put out, people want more shirts. So I'm not going to stop that. And I have some other new like clothing items that I'm working on, and a new women's line that's that should be launching in a couple of months as well. That's turning out really, really nice. So yeah, lots of new stuff. And then just, again, sharing as I go, sharing all the stuff that I'm learning and how I'm doing it all.
That is super cool. How many T-shirts do you have in inventory right now? Or not like actual inventory, but how many, like, I guess, models of T-shirt?
Total products, I have no idea on the top of my head. I think we have around 100 different products on our site right now. In inventory, I mean, we probably have 8 to 10,000 items in our actual inventory, which is crazy. But the actual collection, I think it's around 100 products, but I'd have to actually run a report.
That is awesome. Dude, last thing, what advice would you give, just overall to any entrepreneur who's getting started, and maybe even add in for kind of bonus round, folks who are trying to start a business now as with having a family member, like a new baby or something like that, what advice would you give?
Oh, yeah, that's a broad question. I think one of the main things I would I would emphasize is to make sure that you're doing something that you're interested in beyond just the business money-making aspect, because so many people start businesses. Maybe you like to drink coffee and you're like, I'm going to start a coffee shop. And then you realize that running a coffee shop is 95% business, is not drinking coffee or brewing coffee. It's all the other things. So I always emphasize to younger or to newer entrepreneurs to make sure that whatever they're getting into, they understand that that's only a small slice. The part that they love is only a small slice of actually making it a business. It helps if you're able to manage the business side and the creative side, but doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And then what was the second part of your question?
For any new parents who are becoming entrepreneurs.
Oh, new parents. Yeah. I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. It's really tricky to balance a business and a baby mentally, like to have those two things competing at all times, creating the space and divide for how much time should I be working, how much time should I be off. But I'm still trying to work through that. So I don't know that I have advice other than that it's really hard. It's not as easy as some people make it look.
I appreciate the honesty, man, though. So like that's kind of the goal, just in like email lists, but then also of the podcast is just to kind of bring, like, that's why I asked about your beginner days. What was it like just having like stacks of shirts in your house and being like, all right, honey, like, I hope we do this. Like, I hope this works.
Yeah.
And, like having a baby and introducing that into your company is going to be new. And with a smaller company, it's almost like a baby affects a larger portion of the company, or at least the owner of it. And because it's like, if your child needs you, then like you're the guy. So, or at least the person. So that, I love your honesty and I appreciate that. And hopefully that will encourage some other, if we have any parents to listen, which I have no idea. So
yeah, I would also add that it's not going to go as fast as you anticipate. Starting a business is a very long process to get to the point where you think maybe what you envision in your mind, and people don't realize how long and how much work and how many years it takes. So patience is definitely key.
Definitely. And I mean, Ugmonk is almost 10 years, right?
Yeah, we're 8.5 right
yeah.
now, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got time, and, people don't realize that. Again, it's like you got to see the iceberg. Back to what we talked about before.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. Well, where's your favorite place to kind of interact with folks who are interested in your brand and your business? And, where can we find you?
I am Ugmonk on pretty much all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But the best place is definitely sign up for my email list, which is just ugmonk.com/newsletter. And you can find, just pop your email in there, and then you'll start getting some of the behind the scenes of what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And even if you reply to those emails, they go straight to me. So I get to talk to people all the time via email, which is fun.
Awesome, man. Guys, I would personally say sign up for the email list. I am obviously on it. And, it's just great to see kind of like how a creator goes about it. So, Jeff, thanks so much for being on the show, man. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Man, don't you guys love Jeff? He's got such an incredible story And he's right. I've gotten to see him grow, and he's gotten to see me grow, and so it's just really cool. He's played a huge part in my life, and I wanted to kind of share his story with everybody else. And so if you guys liked him, let me know. Shoot us an email, thebeardedtog@gmail.com, or you can hit him up on Twitter at Ugmonk, Ugmonk. And thanks so much, guys. I have a favor. If you could leave us a review on iTunes, that would be insane. You can just go to your podcast app if you're in the iTunes store, go to the podcast and look up review, and then just write it out. That would be incredible and super helpful. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.